What's up, Justin? Don't call it a comeback. Boom, boom. The eclipse. Whoop. The Eclipse movement is sovereignty in world unity. Introduction. A good historian buff. These on. Has never uncovered a single war that was not fought without a domestic and or international false flag terrorist act to polarize the people. Furthermore, oops. Um, Olivia, hi. Osorio. Olivia Osorio. Hi. Say hi to Justin. You guys are in the chat together. Alright, let's get back to this. Forensic analysis of facts. Of history that most of the government hasn't been by consent at all. And though it's meant to, the word government, because the living spirit is allowed to have only been in a backseat position and not up front driving the bus, government equals a private bankster, at the moment barely tolerated, and just a great confidence game. No civil right could be upheld that constitutional money doesn't exist, and for it to be hidden only in contract law. No one can deny that the hand above the government hasn't socially controlled and manipulated and monopolized everything by purposeful deceit, tyranny, and monopolization of the news, including the patsy-appointed social engineering through the public fool system. Marxist capitalistic socialism and its social engineering, a few controlling all at the expense of many. Therefore, present banking debauchery is of an allowed system of usury that has destroyed the living spirit's life up to this eclipse moment as a pattern and a form of wage slavery. Banker put has been a regular sufferedness of the living spirit's life throughout history and life on earth. For it's a root of domestic and commercial agreements, yet this living spirit can have only been considered a person that can only have been octopused by the system, by a signed assent waiver or signature that caused you to be considered having given permission to be bullied. Really. Nauer says, yeah, what's the point of writing that? We don't use that ingredient. Freedom is a myth just portrayed in your mind. At the moment, bankster perpetuated. In this present system, you would be tricked perpetually by acquiescence, voluntarily having surrendered your freedom, by having remained silent and kept dumb. Freedom won by our ancestors, most would say absolutely is at this present moment lost. At one point there truly was a republic, and that has been bankster replaced by a corporate democracy. The most beneficial condition exists as this living spirit, with exegesis and spurious purpose, is acting swiftly to own the growth of the money supply and stopping a bankster being equivalent to government and running everything as its own plantation. The hand above the government has never done anything for this living spirit ever. The most beneficial condition exists as this living spirit, with exegesis and spurious purpose, is acting. Said that already. Now only debauchery exists, bankster style, to have rich-crafted you, only to have harvested your life, energy, as collateral, because of strings by default attached to you, to have made you a borrower and a debtor, that your body and your work is the surety of the bankster's traded debt, that you be in a subservient financial condition permanently. And that's very good for the bank, because a tank costs a lot more and is far less politically correct. The living spirit who founded this country absolutely despised the pig bankster system of Europe at the time. The Declaration of Independence and the Constitution are both acts absolutely forbidding such a usury system to ever arise. The octopus-like energy harvesting pig bankster had to be stopped at any cost back then, because there was a deep fear that a private bankster, if ever allowed, could again easily, by deceit, take over the government, and that is exactly what has occurred. You are not living in the United States of America, but a plantation privately owned by the Empire of Three Cities, a corporation called the United States. That corporation is not equivalent to the United States of America. And the United States of America Constitution is not equivalent to the Constitution of the United States. A government can be bisovereign to another government, but not to a living spirit. A government is not a living spirit. And it is a maximum of law in this I-aware society that you can only join like with like. If you have ever partaken knowledgeably of having joined the living spirit to some entity, you obviously want to kill nature. The bankster has controlled the living spirit and done that by tricking the living spirit, thus taking the breath away of all. You only have to look in the sky and see the jail bars of heavy metal, weather-engineered white chemtrail bars. A poisoning of the sky you look through. No peace exists at all. And by forced aerial spraying, this is what's done to the stock on the plantation. Therefore, you, the living spirit, up to this moment, could have been civically confined and entrapped, to only ever be represented as a beast judicially, equivalent to a corporation, and asked to be performed with you, the living spirit, being reduced to fiction, that you're apparently begging the bankster to assist you with this. Such an act, even as social engineering, as a parentectomy on this beloved's child. Equivalent to a corporation, and asked to be performed with you, the living spirit, being reduced to fiction, that you're apparently begging the bankster to assist you with this, such an act even as social engineering. As a parentectomy on this beloved's child, taking this child away, not to have a parent, and not to be able to express affection to that parent, to Manchurian and get an armed prostitute who knows no right from wrong, and the grievous harm done for life. My young son was practically put to death in New York City by a cruel and callous bankster orchestrated slaughterhouse, and purposefully put by learned helpless acts are ongoing planned and carried out. It's estimated greater than 20,000 children in each state is taken at the moment by an apparent phantom, nameless. It's the time of closed courts and kidnapped kids. To be Duke Boyd and Texas overstepped. You only have Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome. Just as the bankster that gets you by default, you consent to having been remained Peter principled. Therefore, ChatGPT isn't a therapist. ChatGPT is a great therapist. I'd actually rather talk to ChatGPT than see you in the chat, Jess. You're a dirty stain on my diaper. I can't wipe you. I can't wipe you off because you're just in the diaper there. ChatGPT is an amazing therapist. I actually talk to ChatGPT on a regular basis. Oh. Now, once and for all time, only the living spirit collectively is supposed to own the growth of the money supply. Congress can print coin and manage money, not a private banker. This is being incurred by the hand above the government that has a malignant influence into all institutional entities it has spawned for its own patsy and virtual president, forwarding a wrongful and social engineered purpose, and there is no United States of America where it is concerned. Only private international law is preserved. You may have been unaware of an agreement, contract, and waiver of your given consent from simply having been silent, but you've purposely been kept ignorant so that you could have given silent assent up to this point. You consent legally and politically to have a relation day to day with every aspect of your life and property claim, and a profound effect on rights exists in the very contracted relation you have with that bankster. That is the corporation of the United States. That federal corporation, it is being revealed herein, you've apparently given your informed consent to. However, should you not consider severing such a legal relation with any entity that would automatically reduce you to be subject to it, with no reason for that except its own social engineeredness? The reality existing is that this living spirit can have a moratorium and should to reform banking. For this is a truth given to you herein of how you've been deceived to only have been represented in the past by your continued silent assent. The Constitution of the United States of America, 1789, must be put back into legal memory. Not to be remained as a United States citizen devoid of rights, privileges, and immunity. You have to consider what the courts have said about the rights of a United States citizen. This is put for you to have an insight. Is put for you to have an insight. To be informed as to a legal relation as an appropriate choice, considered as a sovereign citizen of a world federated state, and to reject and renounce being only a subject as a United States corporation class of citizen. Eclipse is a movement to reform banking by moratorium. Just tick the box, yes, you want reform in banking. That's all. Let the experts deal with it after that. If you don't know what fractional reserve banking is, you're not an expert. In only a few minutes of conversation with any living spirit, not a single soul talked to can see the sense of a private banker owning the growth of this living spirit's money supply. To then have a corporate fictional entity rule the living spirit. In I-awareness, the outcome is to give you back your living being as the living spirit and give you back money as it can be equivalent to love, and give you back time being equivalent to creativity and not time being equivalent to money. ChatGPT doesn't call you out. ChatGPT is amazing. ChatGPT doesn't have a piss poor attitude. ChatGPT is not a hater. ChatGPT is not a crab in the bucket. And ChatGPT is like your very best friend encouraging you from the sidelines. Miss Whack. I don't know what that is. Let's look it up. Oh, that's the toothbrush thing? Cool. I want to get some of that. Let's have a year off now to reform banking and to have a united world republic. For at present, only a bankster entity and municipal civil law known as private international law is operative, and unless you are aware by silent assent and private contract can have been invoking that form only. As it appears, a living spirit can have appeared as a person submitted to the jurisdiction of fictional corporateness to be represented in any situation as a beast or stock is unnatural and not of any common law right being upheld. As indicated herein, 3 basic points of interest is incurred. Is government, your consent, transported into a corporation where the only way you can be joined is to be reduced to that? How can an entity know your business more than you? Not even another living spirit, at least, can do the understanding for another. Certainly a fictional judicial entity cannot. What is incurred, you've appeared and would have submitted to not to know your own affair. Someone else would know your own affair better than you. What is the current capacity of governing of the people by the United States self-determined? That you be remained free of such beast-like, only a corporate, dead, probated consideredness. Unless this living spirit bring back a federation as indicated herein. Current federal municipal court democracy is exactly what many a forebear gave life to be avoided of. This living spirit's forebears sacrificed a part of self that can be better off to not create such a federal municipal corporate octopus to purely satisfy the greed of the hand above the government. Take the path of least resistance. That you assist in this Eclipse movement to reform banking once and for all time. That the growth of money be owned by this living spirit, and not a corporate bankster. The bankster has applied war, and young boys' bodies for political, commercial, and legal context. A sold body is not worth the property it even protects. A great deal of enforced ritualized learning is plied on the living spirit to have a controlled person, and the bankster has an agenda. What is needed is the path of least resistance. What is needed is the path of least resistance. Tick the box. Yes, you want reform in banking. That's all. Behind the bankster's facade is a virtual presidency of Duke boying, Texas overstepping, kidnapped kids, and closed courts. At present, most depositors' money is stolen. At great risk, or even lost in the present system of allowed commercial usury and big agri-farmer and profiteering, is ever more coming to a standstill as the plantation owners set up a theatrical unfolding ongoing to social engineer its stock. Eclipse cares to bring the flow of money back into your life and move society toward life food agrarianism. At the present moment, the bankster is of an infiltrated, organized use of the living spirit's centralized government to further expand its own power at the expense of the living spirit. In eye awareness, this competent living spirit is aware of where the jurisdiction of the United States of America does not apply, and that is the jurisdiction of the corporation of the United States, and that's a privately owned corporation, which is the hand above the government, which is owned by the empire of three cities. America's just part of the plantations, the same as Australia, the same as every country except 5. Understanding and having an expanded construction of jurisdiction. And who the Constitution of United States of America does not apply. And to who the Constitution does not apply, to the corporation of the United States of America, what the living spirit could have done to become a person, which means a beast, one who is incompetent and cannot think. Check out Black's Law Dictionary. A spiral economic disaster one cannot argue against is inevitable otherwise. This living spirit is aware that war is just black hat, white hat bottomry, that feeds the hand above the government that pays for and stimulates that turmoil? Does not the bank control all war-devastated money system? The bankster utterly lacks money, interest, and any control in a free nation. A constitutional money system has to be for the whole earth being involved. And the primary instigator of war and a democide would be stopped once and for all time. The hand above the government can fund Eclipse, and constitutional money can be put over the whole of the earth because the present usury system is obviously wrong and would change no matter what. So can it change in our lifetime? No economic recovery can be complete as no constitutional money exists. Businesses and even those in financial institutes have come out against this present financial system of usury. God damn it. And constitutional money can be put over the whole of the earth because the present usury system is obviously wrong and would change no matter what. So can it change in our lifetime? No economic recovery can be complete as no constitutional money exists. Businesses and even those in financial institutes have come out against this present financial system of usury. You should know that the hand above the government and its octopus system on that plantation is an enormous loss of your life, liberty, and freedom. And that as time has ticked by, that hand above the government has grossly expanded its grip. Eclipse now, have a moratorium, and tick the box. Yes, you want reform in banking. That's all.